Welcome back for take two. Hi, Thomas.
Hi, Timony.
Hi.
But here we made it somehow. It's kind of, I said that with anticipation because it was such a false alarm the first time, but some weird stuff went down then.
Yep. So much full moon gremlins in the system today. Getting a lot of beyond room 313 Dunning today. Oh, I can't even talk. Yeah. How's everybody? Thank you all for tuning in for take two. It was awesome. So glad to see everybody here.
Hey everyone, and today I might be a little less talkative because I am down with some sickness right now, but it's good to see you all in the chat. Hi Marnie, hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and always appreciate you guys always appreciate having you guys in the live chat there on Facebook.
How are things over there in Ireland today, Thomas?
It's weird. It's cold, but it's not freezing. I went here this one. I went to get my car and NCT today, which is your annual checkup, like to see if it's roadworthy. And the guy refused it because he said it wasn't clean enough. and it was spotless. It was spotless. But you know what it was? I hadn't washed down the dashboard with handy wipes. So they're all like pussies because of the COVID and everything. They all think it's a COVID mobile as far as they're concerned. They all are terrified. They had me the money back and said, go get it washed. So that was a weird kind of start to the day.
Wow. It's a strange one, Mr. Grinch. All right. Okay, so we're going to get started here. We talked about this one a little bit last week, kind of as an aside. So I wanted to find a little bit more information to share with you guys. Sacred geometry, meaning and origins, sacred geometry, symbols explained. If you are interested in symbolism, you most certainly heard about sacred geometry. But what is it? What is this whole belief based on? In this article, we will be answering all of these questions for you, as well as examining all the sacred geometry symbols and their meanings in detail. Sacred geometry is a discipline or a field of knowledge that ascribes symbolic and sacred meanings to certain geometrical shapes. It has been around since ancient times. Throughout history, spiritual teachers, mystics, and sages have all applied meanings to the shapes and patterns present in nature. Galileo said, "Mathematics is the alphabet with which God has written the universe." The proponents of this school of thought believe that everything in the universe is created according to geometrical laws. From the smallest particles, such as the atom, to the greater cosmos, each nature's creation follows a specific geometric plan, which is revealed through their forms, patterns, ratios, and frequencies. Sacred geometry is about figuring out the hidden meanings behind these geometric shapes in order to understand the universe. It is believed that within these shapes lies the secret of every aspect and facet of this universe, and uncovering these secrets can help us humans understand the great mysteries and the great design that form the basis of this universe. Another interesting aspect of sacred geometry is that it is believed that sacred shapes and patterns are not only found in nature, but they also form the basis of all disciplines, from science to art and the architecture to even music. Since the proponents of sacred geometry believe that the entire universe was created on the basis of geometric laws, there are a large number of shapes and patterns that are believed to have hidden meanings. Here we're discussing the sacred geometry symbols that are believed to be the most prevalent in nature. Flower of life. Flower of life is the name given to a geometric flower-like pattern that consists of multiple evenly spaced and overlapping circles around a central point. It is called the flower of life because it is believed to contain the patterns of time, space, and all of creation. It also contains the 5 perfect solids, also known as Platonic solids, that represent the 2-dimensional views of all the forms that matter and molecules of the universe can take. In other words, the pattern contains models of all realities and possible creations of both natural and man-made elements. Some of the natural elements whose geometry can be found in the flower of life are the snowflakes, sunflower, and nautilus shell. In addition to being considered the primal language of the universe, the flower of life is believed to have the power of unlocking memories, which are present deep within each one of us. It is also considered a powerful symbol because it activates energy coding in the brain that helps a person connect with their body. This symbol can be found in literature, arts, and architecture in every part of the world, from ancient times to the modern day. The Forbidden City in China, the Temple of Osiris in Egypt, and the Golden Temple in India are some of the many sacred places where this symbol has been found. The interlocking circles that form the flower of life are considered the blueprint of the universe. The Platonic solids are the 5 sacred shapes that are believed to be the base or origin of everything in the world. Simply put, these are the building blocks over which both life and material things are constructed. From trees and flowers to the structure of the human cell and DNA to languages, arts, music, and architecture, everything can be traced back to one of these Platonic solids. They are called Platonic solids because the Greek philosopher put forward the idea or viewpoint that these shapes correspond with the 5 basic elements of the universe: earth, air, water, fire, and ether or spirit. Here are the 5 geometric shapes that are called the Platonic solids. There's the tetrahedron, there's the hexahedron, octahedron, icosahedron, and the dodecahedron. And we'll link the article so you guys can read in detail. They describe what each one of them looks like. Then there's the Vesica Piscis. Consisting of 2 intersecting circles whose centers exactly touch, the Vesica Piscis is considered the symbolic representation of shared vision, understanding, or common ground between 2 equal individuals. The shape in the center, which is formed by the intersection of the circles, represents the human eye and highlights the spiritual concepts of seeing eye to eye, and that eyes are the mirror to the soul. It is in these meanings that the geometric shape was used by the Renaissance artists. Another viewpoint with regards to Vesica Piscis is that the overlapping circles signify the connection between the physical and the spiritual world, and the shape in the center represents fish or fish bladder, which was considered sacred by early Christians. This is why the symbol is found in many churches all over the world. Hexagram. Commonly known as the Star of David, the 6-pointed star has been associated with different things during different times, cultures, and religions. For example, in Judaism, it is considered a symbol of God's rule over the universe and God reaching toward humans and vice versa, whereas it symbolizes the ideal meditative state in Hinduism. The interlocking triangles are also believed to represent perfect harmony between the earth and the sky, masculine and feminine. Some also state that the shape symbolizes the position of humans between the earth and the cosmos. Then we have Metatron's cube. Metatron's cube is another sacred geometry symbol that will fascinate you with both its visual appearance and background story. According to the belief, the angel Metatron created Metatron's cube out of his own soul. Metatron's cube is comprised of all the shapes created by God, which are called the Platonic solids, since Plato considered them to be the base material of all things in the universe. Some experts suggest that the cube in Metatron's cube is actually the representation of our bodies in the 3-dimensional world, and while the sphere inside of that cube represents the soul. According to one of the theories regarding Metatron's cube, the symbol was actually a way for God to convey knowledge to human beings. This theory suggests that Metatron's cube was actually derived from the tree of life. Human beings had not been created when the tree of life mentioned in ancient religious texts existed. Therefore, it is believed that Metatron's cube was used as a means by God to convey knowledge, specifically about the tree of life. However, it was necessary to study the symbol if one wants to achieve that knowledge. Metatron's cube was used as a protection symbol against evil spirits and demons. So we'll make sure that that's linked and you guys can see all of those. That's Metatron, our version of Metatron's cube there. You guys can see all those symbols and study them a little bit more in depth if you feel so inclined. I really like dealing with this subject matter because to me, it really gives us a way to kind of map some of this stuff out. And the way that I look at it as it applies to a human being or any living thing really at all, is it those shapes all put together in the right way, they create a magnetic field, which is strong enough and stable enough so that spirit can actually inhabit it without it breaking down. And of course, that field can get corrupted and things can go wrong with it, but it's still able to exist as a physical manifestation of these, higher dimensional frequencies, whatever you want to call them. And I just think that that's a really beautiful thing that we can conceptualize. And also we picked up this book, which is really cool. I'm not sure if you guys can see it all the way. It's Ruler and Compass, Practical Geometric Constructions. And you can just go to your local store and for a couple dollars, pick up a ruler and a compass, have a piece of paper and a pencil, and you can get to drawing these things. And it's an easy practice. I mean, you can study the stuff and read all about it, but it's when you actually sit down and draw them that you get the deeper level of understanding that it's in your brain. It's already in there. It already knows. So when you draw it, it's like, you bring all that stuff out.
Yeah, I was just going to say one housekeeping thing regarding, I've seen the number of messages in the live chat that the stream keeps breaking up. Sorry if that's occurring. This will be uploaded to YouTube later today or this evening for you folks. So if the stream's gone bad for you, just catch us on YouTube later. But we'll do our best to make it through this hour with the stream being live on Facebook.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me. I don't know a lot about the sacred geometry stuff, but I do know about the shapes from magic. So that was my introduction to that kind of use of these symbols. So like I recognize so many things there, particularly the hexagram. The hexagram within magic represents the first shape that can actually replicate itself inside itself, because in the middle of a hexagram is another hexagram, and then another hexagram. It actually becomes that's why it represents in Hinduism eternal, the procreation and life and self-autonomy and things that look at processes and systems that look after themselves. Before that, no other shape. You begin with a triangle or a square, begin with a circle actually, and they don't actually represent themselves. And the hexagram is the first one that's actually active in 3D space-time. So it's off on its own. It's all like when you're going through a magical process of initiation, when you reach the hexagram, you've reached almost a kind of a self-autonomy where you can go off on your own. And then that's like the understanding of the conscious being. When you go from that to the pentacle, the pentagram, you represent one who has a more magical force. So that's why the five-sided pentagram is associated with magic, because it's beyond regular consciousness of the hexagram. It's super consciousness. And its symbolism is the thing like the 5 planets visible to the human eye. It's the 5 points of man, and so on. And and it's very interesting because it is very similar to the magic thing, except actually I think a lot of the sacred geometry is based on magical, ritual magical concepts of it. But they've changed the language in the same way that Wicca was basically written by Crowley, right? And Gardner watered it down. And when Doreen Valentine found this out, she kind of like Hebrewed it all up and turned it back into like a kind of a Jewish thing, to take it away from Crowleyism. But it's the same thing with the sacred geometry. It's a way of taking that of things like the Western magical tradition and Hinduism, and turning it into something a bit more accessible that doesn't have the sort of baggage or the loaded terms. But now, like when you were talking about it last week, I was like, yeah, well, I really need to learn about this. Well, I already know. It's just I operate in those. I know about it through a different vernacular. The flower of life thing, you see that on a lot of cathedrals. A lot of old European cathedrals, you see that.
Yeah, it's all over the place. They found it in ancient Egypt, like the article was saying, China, Tibet, India. All of these buildings that are and structures that are really, 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 really old. How does this same symbol show up in all of these different parts of the world? They knew about it.
Regarding the hexagon, the Star of David, that's only been used in Judaism for about 150 years. You know that? That's not an ancient symbol. Yeah, it only showed up in Judaism. It's very interesting, actually. There was an area called the Pale of Settlement in Eastern Europe. It was around where Belarus, Russia, Poland meet. And it was basically the Jews of Poland were dumped there, and the Jews of Russia were dumped there. And they were given a Pale of Settlement by the Tsar. And it was like it's the first sort of like Jewish area that they were given. And basically, it was kind of like an apartheid state anyway. So the rabbis involved using Kabbalism basically took that symbol. They knew it was not a Jewish symbol ever. And you'd find it everywhere. You'd even find it on mosques, but you wouldn't find it anywhere Jewish. And they took it and actually charged it as a symbol to create the Holy Land, to create Zionism. It's a symbol of Zionism. It was an incredibly powerful symbol. that would have been used, say, in Kabbalism, but not official Judaism. It was not used. You would have never seen it in Judaism, just like you would have never seen the crucifix in Christianity until about 1,000 years ago. So it's it's very interesting. Like if you think of like that developing there around the same time that the swastika was developing in Germany, on the early sort of like magical societies there, in Guido von List and people like that, they actually worked themselves out in a magical war in the decades to come, World War II. So it's so interesting, you know. But a lot of people don't know it. The Star of David is a very relatively recently used symbol in Judaism.
I wonder too if any of these sacred geometrical figures are part of the phosphenes at all, the prisoner's cinema, with when people have the they're locked away without light, and they're, in order for the eyes and an optic nerve to keep firing, for them to keep healthy, they start seeing these shapes. I'm not sure if any of these are in the phosphenes at all.
It's not, as far as I know, it's not a phosphene, but the upright triangle and the inverted triangle are. What do you two have? If the two of them overlap, you've got it. So
right,
in a way it does. In a way it does, yeah.
Okay. And then hexagram part of that at all, or just that you're saying the upright facing triangle, the downward facing triangle, not put together at all in the prisoner cinema, just the individual triangles?
No,
right?
no, I don't think so. I don't. You get like things like spirals, dots, squiggly lines. You know what you get? You get the symbols that we see on the cave walls and early cave art.
Okay,
that's what you get.
All right. Yeah. Well, this is fascinating. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, one of the most fascinating, you know, the symbol of the Vatican, the pyro symbol, the P with the two. It's like a P, the letter P with the two. It's like that. And it's got two. It's like a P up here. And it's got a cross on it, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That was found on a cave in France 5,000 years ago. Wow. How the hell is, you know? So it's like that may have been a phosphine.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, this is all fascinating, and I don't know very much about sacred geometry, but I'm real interested in digging into the ruler and compass book there that Tim and I picked up, and
those wooden books are lovely. That I know the people that published them. They have a huge series of tremendous subjects. They got a really cute one on the Round Towers of Ireland and a few other things. But also in the crypt of the basement of, I'll send you the pictures later so you can put them in, Rosslyn Chapel. There's all that stuff all carved into the crypt. Yeah.
Yeah. And like Timothy was saying, just creating some of these has got to unlock something, you know, getting the compass, the ruler, the pencil and paper out and creating some of these geometrical figures has got to have some kind of connection being made somehow.
Well, in my book Sorcery, I go over the creation of the hexagram. So it's an exercise in the book. In my book Sorcery, it's the magical process of understanding the generation of the hexagram in 3D space. And the purpose of that is to open up keys into your mind regarding processes that become autonomous and self-procreating. So therefore, I don't do this anymore. But years ago, when I was much more into practicing magic in a traditional sense, when I was younger, I used to do just like you guys are doing with the compass and the ruler, the process of creating I'm talking like when I was about 16, 17, 18, the process of creating a hexagram before going into making a sigil, because it was almost like doing stretching exercise before you do like hatha yoga or something like that, or breathing exercise with the tongue out, or the nostril breathing. It was for the mind, but the same thing. It puts you in that position ready to go. It's like a mental workout.
I like that. That's definitely something I would like to integrate, is doing some of this work before doing any kind of magical working.
Yeah, I found actually yoga, and when I used to do yoga a lot 20 years ago, and I found that and the two things went very, very well together. The creation of ciphers and cryptic symbols with the alternative nostril breathing, I found that was actually, it's like I used to visualize I used to do the alternative nostril breathing while visualizing the creation of a hexagram in my mind's eye from a circle. And I found that a very powerful exercise. If people want to try that at home.
Yeah, that's great for balancing the two sides of the brain.
Yeah.
I have a story that actually happened when I think I was 21, 22. I was working in tattoo shops, and there was this gal that I had gotten to know really well at one of the shops I was working at in Albuquerque. And so the 5 platonic solids, I have one tattooed on each finger, on each hand. And I was getting really into this stuff and studying it a lot. And I was drawing these figures. And her and I stayed at the shop one night after hours to tattoo my fingers. And she was a really cool person. And we just got into some really deep conversations. And as an example of how these things actually, they do comprise matter and they change matter. She had a standing light, she had her regular light in the room. And then she had another standing lamp that she could bring closer if she needed, to see finer detail. And we were just having some really good in-depth conversations about this type of stuff. And the light started flickering, and the lamp itself started making this really strange groaning sound. And then after several moments, the light bulb, the glass burst, and it turned off. So she was like, "What the hell, dude? I'm going to stand up for a second, take a small break and check my lamp." And the metal part of the bottom of the light bulb where you screw it into the socket, that metal piece of the light bulb and the metal part of the socket on the actual lamp, they had fused together. They were one piece. You could not separate them.
Yeah.
So that's how magicians are using this stuff in things like alchemy.
Yeah, you often find when you're doing magic, you'll interfere with electrical things. You'll blow light bulbs. You'll do anything. You'll find your appliances are wrecked.
Yep.
They'll be destroyed.
And you'll have random classical music playing on the computer when we're trying to do the Weak and Strange. That was so weird. That sounded like Wagner. I'm pretty sure it's either Wagner or Bruckner that was playing.
I do know, but I can't remember who it is. It was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, another good exercise for a graphic exercise is the consideration of a spiral. You think of a spiral as like one dimensional like that, but think of it in terms of like a spring. It goes back in time and forward in time. And the next time you look at a picture or draw a spiral, imagine your hand as you're drawing the spiral is going deeper into the paper as you reach the center. You're going back in time. Therefore, it's a very good concentrative thing. And I'll give you an example. You have a mental problem. You have an issue you're dealing with. You start with a spiral on a piece of paper. You go into all the ramifications of the problem right to the very center, and you stop when you've reached all the possible things that could go wrong. And then you draw back out again from the spiral, and you've deposited those issues into a place inside your brain where they can be solved automatically rather than them tormenting your consciousness. That's a big one in Hinduism. And this, and there's actually a chance to go with it. But yeah, so I do know a lot of stuff. I just know in a different vernacular to describe it. But it's funny that, it's funny how the ritual magic thing stops basically. Well, I mean, you do have things like it does go on to the larger ones, but generally it ends with the pentacle, the pentagram, and there's nothing much beyond that. There's there might be the 8-pointed star used in the sigillium, like John Dee did, but that was a non-Nokian thing that came later. But it's interesting. It's like sacred geometry takes it into the Metatron's cube and so on like that, which actually was part of Kabbalism also as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, big time actually. So fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And what's great about it too is, I mean, you can take it back as far as you want to go into any ancient religion or system, culture, whatever. But the thing about it is it's universal for everything that lives.
Yeah. I've seen lots of Native American quilts and weaving that has those kinds of shapes on it. Yeah. That was they were clear. Okay, you see like zoomorphic and anamorphic, but there's definitely patterns that are definitely of that nature. I've seen them on like on on their whatever their weavings are. How do they make those carpetsy things?
Yeah, especially in the Southwest, they get real heavy with their geometry patterns.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Well, yeah, I thought that would be a fun one to talk about since we touched on it a little bit last week, and it's one of my favorite subjects, and it's something that you can actually get to participating in.
Show people that book again because I might want to get it.
We'll link it too. It was really, really inexpensive on Amazon. I want to say it was like $12.
Yeah, they always are cheap. Yeah.
Yep. Show a few pictures on the inside here. It's kind of small, but
yeah,
it's a good little book to have.
I've got a few of those books. They're great.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep, and some good stuff online too. If you're more of a person that learns better by watching someone do it, there's stuff all over YouTube. Cool. Okay. Here we go. Asteroid 2022. When will space rock 10 times the size of Big Ben pass Earth? Is it dangerous and can we see it? After almost 2 years of the COVID pandemic and yet another major spike in infections, we're all hoping for a return to something closer to a normal life in 2022. But these hopes could be dashed because NASA has warned a gigantic asteroid 10 times the size of London's Big Ben and almost 3 times the size of the Empire State Building in New York City is going to narrowly miss the Earth in January. It is the latest such warning from the U.S. Space Agency, which revealed another big space rock, 4660 Nereus, whizzing within a whisker of our planet in December of 2021. Potential planet killer space rocks have also been in the public consciousness recently thanks to the Netflix film Don't Look Up, which starred Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. So is there any danger this latest huge space rock could wipe out humanity like the comet in Don't Look Up? And what is NASA doing to stop asteroids hitting Earth? The catchily named asteroid 7482 is set to brush past the Earth on January 18th, 2022. But a near miss in astronomical terms wouldn't be considered close at all by on-Earth human standards. Indeed, the asteroid is set to pass us at a distance of just over 1.2 million miles, or around 5 times the distance between the Earth and the Moon. This is half the distance at which 4660 Nereus passed the Earth in December. While it will be a close shave, it will not be the closest 7482 has come to Earth. In 1933, the asteroid came as close as 700,000 miles away from Earth. Amateur astronomers with small telescopes might be able to see the space rock's 2022 flyby. At more than a kilometer in diameter and traveling at almost 44,000 miles an hour, the space rock has the potential to destroy life on Earth. Due to it being over 140 meters in size, NASA classifies 7482 as a potentially hazardous near-Earth object. It is also defined this way because it will approach the Earth at less than half the distance from the Earth to the Sun, around 93 million miles. This means any slight deviation in its orbit could put it on a collision course with Earth. 7482 is not predicted to come as close to the Earth again until January 18th, 2105. Other space rocks are set to come even closer in the meantime, but other asteroids or comets could well come out of the blue. While NASA says there is no significant chance any of the more than 10,000 asteroids over 140 meters in size it tracks will hit the Earth in the next 100 years, it's estimated these figures account for just half of the potentially deadly objects out there. In fact, there could be more than 25,000 near-Earth objects in space, meaning we have recorded less than half of the killer asteroids out there. So, I don't know if you guys saw, I made a post about it the other night. We were out doing a nighttime walk and we saw, it was a comet or a meteor or something. It smashed through the atmosphere and made a monstrous booming sound that shook us to our bones and literally stopped us in our tracks. And right before the sound, I saw this huge white, it was a bluish white, big sphere of light. And then maybe less than a second later, then the sound hit. And then about an hour later, there was another one that we heard, didn't see that one, but a friend of mine living about 20 miles away said that she saw it and her friend saw it break up in the sky. And she actually saw like the reddish orange glow of the tail right behind it. And not one mention of it in the news. at all. So I wonder if this is, what do they call those? Sleeper, when it drags other things with it, and the main asteroid itself, goes off and does its thing, but the little ones that get caught in its gravity pull, those kind of fall off and come through our atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody was saying, was it Tonga? No, that we actually saw it. Timony saw it. She looked up, she said, whoa. And right after she said, whoa, there was a blue light. And then she was looking to the west, and I ended up looking to the east, and I saw it turn into like a yellow streak that burst apart into pieces right by the horizon. So yeah, it was an asteroid. Yeah.
It was hours before Tonga erupted.
Yeah, hours before Tonga erupted. So yeah, it wasn't Tonga. I mean, and it was, somebody else said it was a pipe bomb. No, the police over here in Pasco did detonate a pipe bomb, but that was around 1 a.m. So I know there's been debunkers out there trying to say that it's something other than a meteor, but no, we saw a meteor.
Yeah, a pipe bomb doesn't make a flash. It just goes. It's just like a big puff of air. That's all a pipe bomb is. It doesn't make light like an arc welder's torch.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. When it has the bright blue, like white light, and then the orange tail, that's a meteorite. The white is it's like a welder's torch, and
right.
that's the friction burning up, and the orange is like it's got a high iron content. That's a meteorite. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really cool thing to have been out and saw it. There was no prediction of meteor showers or anything here. Kind of keep an eye on that. We have a local guy here that goes out and photographs that stuff all the time, so I always see his post. And there was nothing in the news about it before or since. So just one of those things that happens that just does not get any reporting done about it.
Yeah, I mean, the chances of being hit by an asteroid really are very, very small, and the last one, if it is true, the one that is supposed to took out the dinosaurs, what was that, 65 million years ago? So the chances of them happening, if that was even that, we don't know. That's just a theory. And we don't know the chances. I have this, like, the more recent weeks, I've been thinking about this, and I believe there's actually an intelligence within the planets in the universe that if one was coming towards us, Jupiter would deflect it or something. In fact, Shoemaker Levy back in the 90s, the comet, that was heading right for us until Jupiter sucked it in. So it's like, I really do believe there's an intelligence, so like a quantum entanglement between the planets. In fact, they're like
our big brothers, not going to let anybody mess with us.
Yeah, they've even shown that there's energy links. I mean, they don't. I mean, back to the hexagram. That hexagon on the North Pole of Saturn is absolutely the most bizarre thing. It almost like, why does a planet have a hexagon on its North Pole? I mean, it's so, there's so much they don't know. I saw there's a new photograph of Venus out at the moment. It's absolutely incredible that NASA took. And it's just, they took it with the sun behind Venus, so it would darken, it would overexpose the lens, and it really showed the cloud layers really well. And again, the planets look alive, even Venus, it's a white, it doesn't look like a white ball anymore. And I think, yeah, the asteroid thing is a possibility, but I don't know. I mean, it just seems to me the chances are so small.
Yeah, after we saw that first one out on the walk, I had this just impression that there was going to be another one, and it was roughly an hour and 15 minutes later that we heard the same exact thing again, and it just seemed like what are the chances of two of those in a night occurring, being able to be heard over here in kind of eastern Washington.
Well,
don't small ones come through all the time, and they don't really make a sound. You might see them like a shooting star or something.
Yeah,
this one had to have enough mass to, when it broke through the atmosphere and burned and broke that sound barrier.
They're surprisingly small. That one 10 years ago that burned down a factory in Russia and killed 4 people, and it was you go online, you can see the lights. I mean, that thing set fire to a factory just passing overhead, and it was the size of a basketball. So it just goes to show even a small one could do a huge amount of damage.
Yeah. And the first thing that I thought of was with Ben Davidson over at Suspicious Observers with his playlist about the pole shift. How one of the symptoms of a magnetic pole shift is the weakening of the magnetosphere, I think, and causing that shielding that the Earth would normally have from meteorites being deflected off. That one of the symptoms of a pole shift is the increased amount of strikes from meteors on the planet. That we'd start seeing that as a going into when the pole is flipping. But I'll have to look and watch his playlist about that again, his over there on Suspicious Observers. But I'm pretty sure I'm sure Kathy's in here watching right now. She can probably verify that's on his catastrophe cycle playlist there about asteroids and meteors hitting the Earth.
Yeah, I'd be more concerned about a pole shift than I would about asteroids hitting, to be honest with you.
Right.
Because we know that in the time since the big 65 million year one, we know that the Earth has the magnetic pole has flipped something like 11 times. So that's much more likely.
Right. And then just this thing with all these asteroids being in the news, it just makes me wonder if that is a symptom of this pole shift that we're overdue for. I'm pretty sure that all these things coming close to the planet are part of this natural cycle that occurs every, 24,000 years. And excuse me, that some of these big space rocks are being brought in because of the weird geomagnetic anomalies with the Earth.
I also think that the moving magnetic pole, which is like in Canada at the moment, the North Pole, the magnetic pole is in Canada at the moment. I think that the wandering nature of that is and it's very sudden. It's happened quite quickly in the last 20 years. I think that may account for lots of the insanity and madness we see in the world.
Yeah, and the other thing too, with if we are inching closer to a pole shift, we've talked about this before with animals getting lost. The other night, it was the next night, actually. We live on a pretty busy street right off one of the main roads. And right in the middle of the road, underneath the street light, was this coyote. And he was just running down the middle of the road. And that's not a normal place for a coyote to be seen. And even in the direction in which he was going was even towards a more busier part of town. So I don't know if little buddy was lost or what happened, or if he was a ghost or an omen. I don't know what he was, but he, clear as day, he was right there. And it was just such a beautiful picture because it was really, really foggy out, and the fog the air was very crystallized, and he looked like a ghost. And I
saw, in the first time in my life ever, an otter roadkill today. I have never seen an otter at the side of the road after being hit by a car. Because they're very big too. And they don't go near the roads. Now, there's lots of otters around here living in the mountains and the streams and the rivers and the lakes, but they never, ever go near people. They're just perfectly happy doing their otter things, catching eels and whatever. This one was dead at the side of the road near the town. So what the hell was an otter doing in a neighborhood? I've never seen that before, but I've seen otters in the wilds and stuff. But I've never in my life ever seen an otter dead at the side of the road. And that is weird. Otters don't go near roads or people.
No, you're right. They don't. They're perfectly happy in their rivers and their otter places.
So that may be more of that madness of like being moving. I mean, we see news all start. We thought it was the needlecraft, and it may well be the people. I saw in my own eyes people turning into neighborhoods and going, what am I doing?
Yeah.
We're seeing that all the time.
Yeah, that happens to me too. Just even in this little part of the neighborhood. I don't know if it's just that the streets are laid out really funky, which they kind of are. It was built back in the 40s when they were building Hanford out here to deal with the Manhattan Project. So the roads were kind of built a little bit funky just to be confusing in case, spies or something came in. But I've lived here long enough. I should know my fucking way around with my eyes closed. And it's just this one little, maybe it's a square mile, maybe 2 square miles. And I just fucking get lost almost every single time.
Anyone who lives in a cul-de-sac or a dead-end street will tell you that in the last year or so, people will drive in and they're looking around like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, before I moved here, I was living in a cul-de-sac, and that would happen daily, especially after lockdowns and everything.
Weird. Just weird.
So weird. All right.
I was just going to say one last
thing. Week in Strange story.
Yeah. One last thing about Tonga, because I see enough people talking about it in the comments on Facebook, is I wondered too if it might have been an asteroid impact that hit the that hit the ocean there in Tonga, if it wasn't a volcano necessarily, but it was something that struck, because we did see, those two meteorites coming into the atmosphere, if it could possibly have been an asteroid strike out there in the middle of the ocean, which caused the tsunami warnings, flash flood warnings over here on the west coast of the U.S. Down in California, they had some flooding, and there's a whole, like around Puget Sound and the west coast of Washington and Oregon up here, where there was a warning for tsunamis. So I just wondered if maybe something like that did occur, or
it could have passed over. Could have passed over where you live on the way to Tonga.
It can and do volcanoes act like magnets when they're erupting, because all of that molten iron, is coming up from the mantle? Could they act like a huge magnet and draw things in?
I don't think it's iron. I think it's basalt. I think and it's not a magnetic rock. I think. I'm not a geologist. I think volcanoes spew out basalt, which is not magnetic, but it may be. I don't know.
Just a thought I had. I'll have to look into that.
No, it's a good one.
Okay. So this one's going to kind of piggyback off the pub that we did yesterday. Thomas, I think you'll like this one. The mysteries and motifs of pandemic dreams. One night in May of last year, the animator Marcy Lessert dreamed that she found herself in the middle of a crowded gap without a face mask. The scene brought on a familiar panic. The classic dream distress of being naked in public, with the faux pas updated to fit pandemic life. Lessert animated the dream along with a series of others for the film above, Invisible Monsters and Tomato Soup, produced by Steve Borello and Megan McDonough. The idea for the film arose during the early weeks of the pandemic, when the three filmmakers were, like many people, catching up via video call. They had been experiencing vivid and odd dreams since going into lockdown, and began collecting one from the others. Solicited through social media, Reddit, survey sites, and from their own acquaintances. They combed through the more than 80 responses they received, looking for interview subjects with visually compelling dreams, eventually narrowing down the list to 20 from respondents spanning 5 continents. Lessert told me that throughout the process, the filmmakers kept in mind the fact that dreams recounted in the light of day tend to be less than riveting. Listening to a dream can be exhausting, Lessert said, because it's typically a whole big narrative with details that are only relevant to the person's subconscious. In order to counter that phenomenon, they focused on teasing out concepts that ran through multiple dreams in an effort to glean something universal, despite the disparate experiences of dreamers in countries with very different responses to the pandemic. Borello described the process as like being a detective with wires on a board, finding the themes that connect and then whittling it down. These ranged from small oddities that cropped up repeatedly, like lizards and childhood acquaintances, to broader tropes, like experiences of physical touch tinged with danger. To place the motifs they were getting from respondents into the context of the field of dream research, the filmmakers consulted Deirdre Barrett, an assistant professor of psychology at Harvard and the author of Pandemic Dreams. The filmmakers latched onto a phenomenon that Barrett has identified as invisible monsters, stand-ins that crop up in place of C19 and anxiety dreams. Barrett told me that when a crisis isn't associated with specific memorable images, one disaster will show up as another. In contrast, dreams that she studied in the aftermath of 9/11 were, for example, quite closely tied to reality. Even when the event itself didn't appear, planes, crumbling buildings, and fire were constant tropes. Although masks and ventilators do make appearances in the COVID-19 dreams that Barrett has recorded, particularly those of healthcare workers, the virus itself is more slippery in its representations, sometimes replaced by invisible specters, like life-threatening footsteps, or simply the knowledge that something ominous lurks outside, and something by concrete dangers appearing in place of the virus, like natural disasters or evil beings. The dreams in Invisible Monsters and Tomato Soup run the gamut. Some are nightmares, some feature figures of comfort, as McDonough put it, like the grandmother of a childhood friend. To capture this range in her animation, Lessert created a visual world that fit multiple moods. Rather than make the monsters and threatening figures appear frightening, as they were in the original dreams, Lessert gave them kind eyes and friendly smiles. A pair of menacing, knife-wielding radioactive lizards share an endearing moment, when one presents the other with a bouquet. Even a Boschkian blue demon sitting in the middle of a fiery hellscape gobbling up a human victim has a surprisingly pleasant expression on its face. Lacerte uses color to communicate changes in tone. Nightmares appear in dark, saturated tones, shifting to a gentler pastel palette for dreams about reassuring visits from the dead or distant loved ones. A bright shade of scarlet runs through the changing color schemes, evoking by turns danger, a hand whose touch feels like fire, warmth and light, lanterns at a Chinese market or hot sand, and comfort, cans of Campbell's soup. Barrett told me that colorful, vivid dreams have become more common during the pandemic, along with dream recall, particularly for people who had previously suffered from a chronic lack of sleep. Pandemic-induced insomnia aside, working or attending school from home has allowed some people to sleep in slightly later than they had normally and to experience the longer REM periods that occur in the final cycles of sleep. In March, Barrett began collecting dream reports from around the world using a survey and categorizing the thousands of responses she received into a few core groups: dreams about the dead, isolation, illness, and so on. Common themes have evolved over the course of the pandemic. Last spring, many dreams reflected fears about infection itself, expressed through swarms of insects or toxic air. As the pandemic dragged on, these gave way to dreams about secondary implications: financial and employment anxiety, dread about returning to offices, dread about not returning to offices, and stress about helping kids with schooling at home, such as the one Barrett recorded in which a mother dreamed that her 10-year-old's entire class was being sent to her house for her to teach until the school could reopen. As needlecrafts have been rolled out in recent months, Barrett told me dreams about a post-pandemic world have started to crop up. Everyone's COVID-free dreamscape is different. One woman found that a whale had moved into her swimming pool. Another described a world in which Bernie Sanders was president and was busy rolling out plans to kickstart the economy with a marijuana initiative. More and more frequently, Barrett told me dreamers are envisioning an environmental reset in which they step outside into a utopia filled with clean air, clean water, and thriving wildlife. In the final image of Invisible Monsters and Tomato Soup, a woman flies above this kind of world. During the pandemic, dreaming has become something of a hobby. This dreamer explains via voiceover. At the end of each day, she can't wait to go to bed, she said, gliding gently over chartreuse hills and baby blue lakes.
I don't trust that experiment.
I know.
Either the control subject group were very specifically picked from neurotic wokis, or they're lying and making it up. People dreaming of an ecological paradise ahead, like that's all the climate change stuff, the Bernie Sanders stuff. And then why were they taking the dark imagery and turning it into friendly little trolls and stuff? That defeats the whole purpose of the dream. You've been given those images of demons and scary creatures for a very real and powerful reason. It's something that's definitely have to confront. Why are they giving them happy eyes and making them cuddly? Oh, I don't like this thing at all. It sounds, I don't know, it kind of gives me the creeps in a way. Listen to what they did, you know. And I don't believe half those dream stories. I think they're all made up.
I brought it up because when we were talking yesterday in the pub, you mentioned that there was a missed opportunity for research there. So I pulled this one and to talk about it so that maybe we could bring up some of the inverse of what they are talking about in this and kind of pull some of that back. It also sounds like they're part of the control system to like co-op this. They don't want motherfuckers like us looking into this stuff, because we probably find the real shit. You know, so that's actually maybe more determined than ever to, like, when I have time to go back and explore all this. I don't believe, they wake up in a utopian world. I mean, this is the Great Reset or something. I don't trust this at all. Not at all. It sounds like they either, there's a bunch of flakes, a bunch of insiders, or they made it all up. Right.
Yeah, I agree, Thomas. It sounds like a lot of it was generated. It was a little too perfect to be real, but like Timothy was just saying, though, like what was actually going on though with the dreamscapes that we're all excuse me, I'm losing my voice here a little bit, but the dreamscapes that we were having and have been having, I definitely didn't have very many dreams there at the beginning of when everything started happening, but excuse me, Yeah, but the dreams I have been having lately have been in a lot more oh god, a lot more prescient, and having things that were like things that actually were going to start happening in my life and everything. Sorry, I'm losing my voice real bad. I'm going to turn this over.
Yeah, I was immediately suspicious as why the powers that be were interested in their dreaming. Why it got such massive coverage.
Well, because they know that the subconscious is being tapped into, so they want to, mine that information.
Yeah. Or are they using something like harp or something to do it, or to get into people's heads to make them neurotic or something? That's for the that song by the Cheap Trick Dream Police. It became a piece of chaos magic. Right? They started policing our dreams.
Yeah, it's like Minority Report for when you're sleeping.
Yeah, there's a huge untold conspiracy with all that stuff, and it's hard to put your finger on right what I know they were up to no good. I know they were.
Yeah, it makes me think too about what we were saying yesterday in the pub about programming people from within TV and from within social media. This idea that like the real normie types can be a lot more heavily influenced by things than most of us here, who are people in the tribe and everything, who aren't as easily corrupted by social engineering and everything. But all the memes and tropes within Netflix series and social media stuff, like I would imagine it's incredibly easy to influence those people's lives, and then and of course influence their dream state. Where, but I agree with you, Thomas, that like it seems like a lot of that in that article was made up. Like it was too perfect, the dreaming of Bernie Sanders and everything with making a cannabis pop.
And something, it's almost like those people don't dream and are telling us what they think a dream is like.
Exactly. There you go. That's perfect. That sums it up. They don't dream, but they're giving you everything that. Yeah.
I can always remember that psychopaths. I think it was Robert Hare actually said that because they don't dream, they will make up stories about a dream. And it's like not how people dream. They think it's like a movie or something with a story. And dreams are not
it's the same way they study behavior, the expressions on a real person's face or how they speak and how, their laughter cues and stuff like that.
I remember this piece of shit years ago. He was there was a scandal in Ireland where they took something had happened where babies that had died or something in a hospital and they had been disposed of as medical waste or something. It would happen by mistake. And there was this one guy, his wife, that happened to his wife or his girlfriend. And he was on the radio going, I have these dreams of my child being pulled to bits every night. And I was thinking, you lying bastard, the lawyer told you to say that, to try and bump up your money and your payment, your compensation payment. I knew he was lying by his body actions. And then I realized he probably doesn't even know what a dream is. Do NPCs even dream? I could always tell, it's weird. It's just weird,
Yeah, it's like they don't know the difference between a dream and like a daydream.
Yeah. So that's actually bang on. I always remember when I was a kid, now I'm a young kid now, 7, 8. There were kids in my neighborhood who thought the TV programs on their TV were only on their TV. And then now looking back on it now, I think they were the very first NPCs I discovered, because they could not grasp that it was a central broadcast and we all got the same programs on the same TV. And it's on our television, we saw this. And I says, well, I saw that too. On my television, you saw it as well. And at 8, I was fully aware that there was a broadcast. But looking at some of those people, I went through high school and with them and grew up with them. And they were NPCs. They don't understand anything unless it's given to them. And that includes a dream.
Yeah.
So we'll put that test in the trash can and we'll do our own.
Yep. Sounds good to me.
That was a good find, Timothy, because it's one more proof that they were up to no good, the bastards, with that whole episode.
Absolutely. Okay, Thomas, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Can you give us the psychic weather?
I will.
Thank you.
Is it bad? Is it great? Are you happy? Are you irate? The weekend psychic weather.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Psychic Weather. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a report called Do Not Play with Madness, because I felt it seemed to be that madness was on the rise and looking for attention. Well, we are full on in a psychotic cycle now at the moment, and it started at the weekend. Yes, we have a full moon. We're coming into around a full moon now, and it's beyond that normal flux. I have encountered madness, insanity, mass hysteria, minor hysteria, micro hysteria at an unbelievable level. It is absolutely insane at the moment. Now, I don't know if this is caused by it's funny, an element of insecurity as the last 23 months come to a corner, which looks like we're finally getting out of it. And the individuals, the unhinged individuals who took a comfort in the last 22 months of totalitarian control because they knew everything to do, say, do, wipe their arse or whatever, and now have to go back to thinking for themselves to some degree if they're gone into states of terror, like a child whose mother has left them and they have to start taking care of themselves. I don't know if it's that. I don't know what it is. But we are in a state of absolute mass hysteria. Every country seems to have it at some level at the moment, in some degree. In certain towns and cities, there's something going on that triggers behaviors in people at the moment that are way off the scale of how they should respond to it. On top of that, so many psychotics that I had as control specimens Renfielded out of control over the weekend. Well, I had one individual who I had not heard from probably 8 years email me in my inbox, and this person is a psychotic who had spent, and he's also a radio host, show on alternative radio here, with about 5 listeners. He has been in and out of psychiatric hospitals nonstop. His wife finally left him and ran off with the kids, and now his family. And this guy, out of the blue on Thursday night, emailed me saying, "You are fucked. You will be destroyed now and exposed for who you are." I mean, this was just like foaming at the mouth insanity. And another person got a photograph of me, a photograph of people standing on a vaccine queue and claiming that I was one of them lining up for my booster. It's on my Facebook wall until some guy who'd found it said, "Hold on a second, that picture's not even the part of Ireland he lives in. It's from months ago." And this was just the mad clawing. And they'll call you any name and they'll do anything to break you down, to disrupt you, because we've gone from the state of do not play with evil to now to guard yourself from madness. So I don't know why this is. I suspect it's because we're coming to the end of the last 23 months of massive social engineering, totalitarian police state control worldwide. But I strongly suspect that it's like the band playing on the Titanic. They're going crazy because they don't know what to do next. So that's the week in psychic weather. Well, the mad are out in force, probably at a level I've not seen in a long time. So be careful, and again, do not indulge. Block them, remove them. They will actually say the most and behave in the most depraved ways at the moment. Nothing is beyond it. And if you've ever had a nutcase in your life that was hidden, you're going to discover them now. And that's the week in psychic weather.
Is it bad? Is it great? Are you happy? Are you irate? The week in psychic weather.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a right good reminder for everybody. If you get hit from the side with somebody psychotic, just keep moving and put your blocks up, whatever you need to do. Don't be afraid of that.
And remember, we don't know fully, science doesn't know fully what causes schizophrenia. So schizophrenics will be very, very dangerous at the moment.
Yeah.
Because we don't there are psychiatrists out there who say there's an entity inside them. That's actually a growing thing in the field, or not. So remember, schizophrenics, you don't know what you're dealing with there. So avoid.
Agreed. Thank you for that. Okay, this one is interesting. The Crocodile Cult Temple. I'm going to do my best to pronounce a few of these words. Saknopayu Nisos, also called Dime es Siba, is an ancient temple complex and settlement associated with the deity of Soknepoes, or Sobek, who was a local form of the ancient Egyptian crocodile-headed god Sobek. Sobek was generally represented in the form of a crocodile or as a human with a crocodile head, associated with pharaonic power, fertility, healing, and protective qualities for the dangers represented by the Nile. In Ptolemaic and Roman Egypt, a local monograph called The Book of the Fayum gives mention of the journey made by Sobek Ra, with the movement of the sun through the sky, and Sobek's role in creation as a manifestation of Ra as he rises from the primal waters of Lake Moiris, present-day Lake Quaron. So Kanapu Nisos is located in the desert north of Lake Moiris in the El Fayum Oasis, where it was founded around 100 to 50 BC during a period of land reclamation around El Fayum by the ruling Ptolemites. Dating of the site is based on a treasure trove of papyri that date from 50 BC to AD 250, giving archaeologists a glimpse into the everyday life of the settlement and the religious cult practices of the temple. So Nopayanu Nisos played an important role in the regional economic system for state administration and as a major employer of occult staff and Wab priests who served the temple in 5 separate each file consisting of 30 men, alternately over a lunar month. So Kanapayu Nisos consists of a temenos, or a sacred enclosure, containing 2 contiguous sanctuaries connected by an open-air courtyard that formed the nucleus of the main temple complex. Within the temenos are several supporting mud brick structures which functioned as priest's house, workshops, administrative buildings, and subsidiary temples for worship. Leading up to the temenos was a dromos, a raised road or platform that divided the settlement in 2 for ritual processions during the feast days. Excavations alongside the dromos have revealed many residential structures, where finds include fragmentary wall paintings, pottery, agricultural equipment, and numerous examples of papyri and ostraca in Demotic and Greek. That was a lot of big words in this. Papyrological evidence suggests that Soknapayu Nisos was abandoned around AD 2030, although the reasons for this is not entirely clear. It may have succumbed to a loss of pilgrim revenue over its remote location, or possibly from a dwindling interest in the cult worship of Sobek. Yeah, that's it. I think you found this one, right?
Yeah.
Did you see the height of the walls? Did you see the height of the walls in that picture, that place? They must be like 100 feet tall. They're absolutely enormous. Just some structure when that was built.
Yeah. Yeah, I found this one and I thought it'd be interesting because I know, Thomas, you have a connection with Sobek.
Yeah, Sobek, he was a very popular deity in the Middle Kingdom, and then he kind of like fell out of fashion. There was actually a city called Crocodipolis, believe it or not, that still existed in Egypt until Greek times. And devoted to the veneration of the crocodiles in the Nile. Now, I mean, a crocodile, you know, they're an amazing creature. When you look at them and you see them, it's like a leftover from the dinosaur age. But the Egyptians seem to have taken them to a kind of a spiritual level. They used to anoint themselves with fat from a crocodile's body. It was like they used it in the same way people in Southeast Asia use coconut oil. They use the fat from crocodile oil. Now, these crocodiles, I mean, the crocodiles in the Nile are unbelievably vicious. I mean, they're some of the most dangerous creatures on the earth. There's one of them that actually lives in the Sudan and Kenya, and he's got a name like Old Bill or something like that. And they reckon he's killed up to 100 people, and he's the biggest crocodile in the world. And they photograph him. He's covered in bullet holes. They can't shoot him. Nothing kills him. You need like a tank to kill him. But I've seen a photograph of him, and he's like 80 years old, and he's killed dozens and dozens of people in I think Uganda and Kenya and Sudan. He travels up and down the Nile just killing everybody. And it's easy to see how these Sobek may have been based on before, like even firearms may have even been based on, whatever this guy's name, Old Bill, whatever it is, or Old Nash, or whatever his nickname is. If he was based on some formidable crocodile. But also, when you look at Sobek's meaning, he's actually quite a beautiful thing. He's a he takes no bullshit, right? So he's pure and honest, and he's direct. But you know the way crocodiles protect their young by putting them in their jaws and swimming with them. So they have the most gentle parental way of looking after their young. And imagine that you're a baby crocodile, you've got to feel pretty protected. If you're a baby saltwater crocodile and you're inside these teats, you've got to grow up pretty self-assured about yourself. So it's almost like he's the protector. Sobek is the protector of people who need help, and that's his deity. People, he's the protector of the ones who can't defend themselves. So he's actually a very sweet deity. He's almost cuddly, considering when you think of like what the real thing is and what his archetype is like. But crocodiles scare the shit out of me. I mean, these saltwater ones that live in Asia, these things can grow up to like 15, 20 feet, and they can like hit out of water at 70 miles an hour if you're standing at the side of the dock. And, they're just unbelievable. There was a famous battle in World War II where the Japanese retreated from the Allies into a swamp, and they were all eaten by saltwater crocodiles. And the Americans and the British troops just reported screaming all during the night of fellas being eaten one by one by the salties in the swamp. So it's a formidable creature. But the ones in the Nile, yeah, I bet you do wonder why something like that comes up, becomes a huge religion, and then fades in the Middle Kingdom. And it's probably because there was some mean bastard crocodile who developed in the Nile, actually developed a kind of a godlike status because he lived to probably be 100, and he probably killed hundreds of people or something like that. But yeah, that's an interesting story. I'm fascinated by Sobek. He appeared to me in the hospital. I didn't even know who he was at the time. He appeared to me. I was very ill and I was in a lot of pain. And he appeared to me as clear as anything. And I didn't even know. I knew about that. I said that fella you see in Egypt with the crocodile head, but I didn't even know his name or anything when he appeared to me. And the way he appeared, he looked at me like this with such smug contempt. And I had a dream about him recently, and he looked at me kind of like approvingly. So maybe that means something. Whatever he didn't like about me back then, he likes about me now. So yeah, or something I was fighting or something inside myself, a bitterness or something. I let it go, and he's like, yeah, you're a man now, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's improvement, but yeah, it's a shame he fell out of fashion. But there's some fantastic friezes of him on some of the temples in Egypt, some beautiful friezes, and that's a great story. The size of that temple is really impressive, but a whole city devoted to crocodiles, and they lived in the city. They were allowed to go in and move in pools and stuff like that, and there were special canals built for them.
Yeah.
This reminds me too of the TV show Lost. In one of the early seasons, they showed on the beach there was a statue there was just the foot of a statue. And then later on towards like season 5 or 6, they show a back in time. The foot was part of a greater statue, and it was a statue of Sobek carrying, I think, an ankh in each hand. And there's a temple there at the next to where Sobek was. And I forgot the name. I think his name was David or something. the guy who was in charge of the island or something, but just reminded me of that, the temple of Sobek that was there on the island and lost.
Yeah, he's one of the turnaround gods. It's very interesting. In the Egyptian religion, you have gods that are kind of intermediates between them and the supreme universal God. And you would deal with Sobek, Osiris, Thoth, Horus, Seth. They're the turnaround gods, but they're not. They're almost like the intermediaries between humanity and the God, and the ultimate God, which is the man who whacked himself off and built the universe. I can't think of it. That's what he did. That's what he did. That's what the legend is. He masturbated the universe into reality. That's what the Milky Way is. That's him shooting. That's like him. Yeah, I mean that's true. I'm not joking about that. He masturbated the universe into creation.
In the Egyptian mythology, you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not. Let's see. There's not Crowley entity with was it Rahu Kuit and. Oh gosh, I'm blanking out really bad. You've got.
I'm blanking out too. I'll get his name.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot. I thought I'm not a.
Where's Venice?
It's a short word too. It's like 3 words. I'm getting it as crossword clues for some reason. I don't know why. But someone will find it. It's he is. That's it. Yeah.
Atom,
yeah. Atom. Yeah. Atom. Yeah.
Thanks, Jade.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, but Atom masturbated the universe into reality, and that's what the Milky Way is, a big ejaculation, and that later on became Nut.
Right, Nut. Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. You had like hardcore porn in Egyptian religion before you had anything else.
Yeah. And there's some symbolism there with the dot and circled, right? The dot and circle, the squared circle with a dot in it too, right? I want to say.
Yeah. The fertilization thing. Yeah. So Atom was the supreme godhead. It's like Shiva in their religion. And then all the others are turnaround gods. They're in between man and them, of which Sobek is one. And like saints in Catholicism, they come and go out of fashion. And that happens with demons. Like Paimon became really fashionable with the movie Hereditary, and Beetlejuice, and other ones in the past would have Beelzebub and others would have came in more popular. It's interesting. So that's whatever. I'd love to know why it stops being popular, but that he did. Sobek he wasn't in the charts anymore. He was like a washed up god. Sadly, literally and figuratively. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're gonna do this last one. It's just from yesterday, actually. Unknown objects at the heart of the Milky Way are beaming radio signals that mysteriously disappearing. Yep. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Zit-ing Wang. Found a needle in an astronomical haystack. Okay. Wang, a physics PhD student at the University of Sydney, was combing through data from Australia's ASKAP radio telescope in late 2020. His research team had detected 2 million objects with the telescope and was classifying each one. The computer identified most of the stars and the stage of life or death they were in. It picked out telltale signs of a pulsar, a rapidly rotating dead star, for example, or a supernova explosion. But one object in the center of our galaxy stumped the computer and the researchers. The object emitted powerful radio waves throughout 2020, 6 signals over 9 months. Its irregular pattern and polarized radio emissions didn't look like anything the researchers had seen before. Even stranger, they couldn't find the object in X-ray, visible, or infrared light. They lost the radio signal too, despite listening for months with two different radio telescopes. It reappeared suddenly about a year after they first detected it, but within a day, it was gone again. Unfortunately, we don't quite know what behaves like that. Tara Murphy, a professor at the University of Sydney who led Wang's research team, told Insider. It was becoming clear that this was no ordinary dead star like the other 2 million objects in their survey. That's when we started getting excited, Murphy said. The team sent their data to the other radio astronomers asking for theories. Bit by bit, they confirmed that no one had ever detected anything like it before. The researchers' conclusion: the discovery could belong to an obscure category of mysterious signals coming from the center of the Milky Way, known as galactic center radio transients. Before Wang's discovery, only three such objects had ever been identified. The name GCRT is a position holder, Murphy said, while we actually try and figure out what they are. Murphy is 100% confident that the signals aren't coming from aliens because technological signals would cover a much narrower range of frequencies like humans broadcast do. GCRTs have been a mystery for decades now. Nobody knows what type of star would make those unique signals, and each GCRT is different, leading researchers to believe the four signals are not coming from the same type of object. Any new discovery adds to the full body of knowledge that either cements what we already know or adds to it, or really could lead to revolutionary new understandings. Scott Hyman, who led the research. Okay. He led the research efforts that discovered the three prior GCRTs, told Insider. Whether these objects fall into those categories, we don't know. We just don't know enough about them. Fuck, I'm not mature enough for this show.
Well, this one's pretty good. Again, with the synchronicity, where we're just talking about Autumn and Nuit and the Milky Way galaxy. This is real interesting. But yeah, it's ironic that it's Dr. Wang and Dr. Hyman. I mean, somebody had to have made up those names.
Yeah, I thought I had a photograph here of Atom having a hand party, but yeah,
hand party. That's good.
It's somewhere in my books. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they're just Dr. Wang was just saying this one, 2 million objects, and there aren't there like something like 4 million sperm in a.
Yeah. I missed out Dr. Wang. I mean, after that, I couldn't really listen to the rest, but the synchronicity, all right.
Dr. Wang is part of Osiris right here. They got chopped off and was never found, right? Yeah.
You ever hear that song by Hawkwind, Quark, Strangest and Charm? It's so funny. It's like Galileo, all the girls loved his expanding telescope. It's got all these science, innuendos, you know?
Yeah. That's good. Not a scientist. But yeah, this story, I'm not quite sure what to think of it. I feel like they always have this thing about it, some very mundane explanation of some sort of radio signal. And, it does make me think about, what other forms of intelligence are out there that can be broadcasting something. Well,
the famous wow signal is real. But the weird thing was when they went to look back into the same part of the universe, then it wasn't there. It's the weirdest thing. Maybe it was the civilization moved, or maybe it was a spaceship traveling through space, but that wow signal is definitely artificial.
Yeah.
They thought pulsars were artificial because of the regularity. The regularity, yeah. They were absolutely convinced they were some kind of beacon. Mm-hmm. Until they realized it was a star with another star moving in front of it, blocking out and creating that beep, beep, beep.
Right.
I tend to believe we're the only ones in the universe.
Yeah. I've had the thought too. Yeah. I've had the thought too that maybe in the past there were other civilizations out there that have been wiped out, and we could be like here on Earth could be the like a backup hard drive of all life that once existed in the universe, because it's like we have such, a compost planet. We have so much.
I tend to think they come from the moon or Mars or somewhere close rather than someone somewhere interstellar. Just my hunch, my feeling.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
they would have found something by now. They've had how many years of radar telescopes have been mapping out there, and how many millions of years into the past have they looked, and not far to get that well signal.
Yeah, but I still think that this could be a backup, so to speak, of all the life that once existed in the universe. This is just the variety of things we have with giraffes and octopuses and some of the strange life forms we have here, as if like that they are somehow like a backup of all these type of creatures that once might have existed out there in the known universe, and that somehow this is like the seed that everything is grown back. Was that
the seed? Sorry,
there we go again.
I'm having a 12-year-old moment here.
Yeah, and impregnate the rest of the galaxy again with
No, I'm who's going to be the first to mention Uranus?
Someone did in the comments.
I'm already okay.
Okay. This is a great show. I had a lot of fun today. Jason, thank you so much for powering through. I know you're really not feeling too great. So thank you so much for jumping on here and making sure we had the music and everything. Good time. Thomas, I know we did a symposium earlier. By the way, guys, we did a really, really great symposium this morning with Brad Olson. We'll have that up and ready hopefully by tomorrow. That's Jason's department in editing.
Very interesting man.
Yeah, wasn't he great? Such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you guys will all like that. Again, thank you to we got a couple new Patreons this week. Thank you so much. Everybody who shows up and joins us, as always. We're starting out the year pretty strange, and I just want to keep it that way. And yeah.
And if you know anybody who'd like to be on the symposium, tell them to contact us. Yep. We don't always have the time to go looking for other people. But if you know somebody who's written a book or something, or might be an interesting person to talk to, tell them to send us a message as to why they'd like to be on.
Absolutely. Yep. That's always welcome. Inbox stuff like that all the time. You guys have a wonderful week. Go ahead, Thomas. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're not snobs. We're not looking for big names. We'll take anyone who's interesting. We want interesting people, not names. Yeah. Yep. So we do want names, but I mean, that's not. You don't have to be. We want people who also are have something new to say. Yeah, absolutely. All right, you guys. Well, we will see you all out there in the wild. And until next week, keep it strange.